Sorry,
Got to hit
I'm already doing it.
say the record button.
I did. I just did it.
So,
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have 1 o'clock. I think we can go ahead and get started. I can't see who's on from the commissioner side, but after roll call, if there's still some delay, we can reach out to them.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged Business Meeting, our December meeting. We'll now call this meeting to order. David Darm, would you please call the roll? Commissioners, remember to unmute your line before you speak, please.
Okay, when I state your name, please signify that you're here. Chair Stevens.
Here.
Vice Chair Gray. Commissioner Barrios.
Here.
Commissioner Knight.
Here.
Commissioner Tellez.
Here.
Okay, quorum is present, Mr. Chair.
Okay, could you run through Commissioner Barrios, Commissioner Knight, Commissioner Tellez, and was there anyone else? I'm sorry.
We're only missing is Commissioner Gray.
Gray. Okay, got it. All right, just double checking. We are hosting this meeting via webinar, which is obvious. We do ask that everyone on the call, the video, to remember to mute your microphone or cell phone if you're not speaking, so we do not get background noise. At this time, we can go ahead and move to the next slide. I don't know who's changing. There we go. All right. If you're able, please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. And you can follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Now some general meeting rules. We now ask our commissioners and advisors to introduce themselves and agencies they may represent. Remember that if you are to unmute your microphone, if you're on the Teams meeting or the phone, you must do *6 to unmute their lines. So at this point in time, go ahead and Commissioner Barrios, if you introduce yourself. Remember, hit unmute. We'll come back. Commissioner Knight.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Renee Knight. I am Vice President of Community Services for ElderSource. I live in the Jacksonville area. I've been on the commission for 3 years, and I have worked over 26 years with seniors and senior programs. And transportation is such a need for our seniors and people living with disabilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tellez.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Robin Tellez coming to you from Miami-Dade, Florida. I have been with the commission since 2016, and my interest actually is with persons with disabilities. I recently retired from Baptist Health, South Florida, and one of the main programs that we had in human resources was hiring persons with disabilities. And my interest came in their difficulties in getting transportation to and from work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Barrios, are you?
Yes, hi, I'm so sorry. I'm reading. So my name is Lillian Barrios. I live in, my background is in public health, and I just joined the commission this year. I'm glad to be here. And I, am coming from the perspective, not just someone interested in these topics, but also as a user of these services. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to be with you guys. Thanks.
He doesn't understand it.
Okay. Okay,
It's not
thank you.
reading.
Hello? If you're not speaking, please mute your lines, please. Thank you. And I'm the fourth commissioner on the call today. Phil Stevens, reside in the Tampa, Florida area. I'm a transportation engineer by profession. Got involved 4+ years ago in the commission because of my son Jared, who's actually in the room with me. 23-year-old, cerebral palsy in a wheelchair. Transportation's a big part of our world. So that's both personal and professional. So any advisors on the line today or online?
Hi,
I'll just
Krista
ignore-
Carter. Oh, sorry. Krista
No.
Carter with the Florida Department of Elder Affairs.
Okay, hey, Christian.
And Ken Carroll with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities.
Hey, Kent.
Willie Miller with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities.
Hey, good afternoon.
Chair Stevens, I just wanted to let you know that Commissioner Gray has joined as well.
Okay, thank you. Rochelle, are you gonna?
Yeah, I just want to say good afternoon. I'm Rochelle Munson. I'm just General Counsel to the Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other advisors on the call today? If not, Commissioner Gray, would you mind doing an introduction?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Good afternoon. I'm sorry I was a couple of minutes late. My name is Christine Gray. I live actually in Brevard County now. I have been doing advocacy for people with disabilities for 20+ years, mostly because I'm a person with cerebral palsy and have had to learn to navigate the world without being able to drive. And so I'm here because of that. And then on top of all of that, I have an 11-year-old son who is not disabled. So it's been quite interesting trying to navigate transportation for both of us. So I'm glad to be here this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Glad you could make it. So in some of the meeting rules, this is a public meeting and operates under Florida's Government in the Sunshine Act. This meeting is being recorded. You probably saw the notice pop up on if you're online. And all verbal, written, and text, including the chat box, feedback or text or anything will be logged within the meeting minutes for today. So we advise commissioners on the webinar not to communicate via chat box or privately in any way, text or anything, just the normal rules like we always deal with any other board members in order to ensure that we stay within the sunshine law. For the first comment segments, we'll follow our usual format. The first one being is intended for agenda items only. And however, we do welcome public comments on any topic during the second public inputs segment, comment segment. We have asked participants intending to speak to submit a public comment form prior to this meeting and indicate whether they are speaking on the webinar or the phone. We'll first call on the folks who have submitted a form in advance. And then for people on the webinar who have not submitted a form and wish to speak, we'll ask you to indicate that in the chat box or by speaking up. If you wish to speak, we'll call on you after the ones submitted a form. And then we can go to the call phone. All speakers, if you don't mind, please identify your name, an organization represented if appropriate, and your county of residence. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes for the public comments. And again, the first one is for agenda. The first one here is for agenda items only. So with that, we will go to the first public comment segment of the meeting. We'll call on any speakers who have submitted a public comment form to David Darm or staff prior to today's meeting. As mentioned, please direct your comments to the agenda items during this segment, and we will notify you when you are 1 minute from reaching your 5-minute limit. So with that, Director Darm, do we have any forms in advance?
No, Mr. Chair, I've not received any.
Okay. With that, we will now go to the webinar. I don't see any requests in the chat box, but is there anyone on the webinar that wish to make public comment at this time? If not, on the phone, remember to hit *6 if you want to speak to unmute yourself. Okay, not hearing any. Again, there will be a second opportunity for public comment at the end of the, toward the end of the meeting. So now we'll move on to the next agenda item. The approval of the August 29th, 2022 meeting minutes. We convened our business meeting in Orlando on August 29th, 2022. Draft minutes were provided in the meeting packet. Are there any questions or revisions noted for this packet before we take a vote? If not, then hopefully everyone had time to review that. If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Knight
This
makes
is Commissioner.
Commissioner Knight, motion. Can I get a second?
Commissioner Tellez,
Commissioner-
I give a second.
Thank you, Commissioner Velez. All those in favor of approving the August 29 meeting minutes indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Not, then the minutes are approved as shown. Next one, we'll talk about next year's meetings. The schedule of proposed commission meeting dates was provided in your meeting packet. And at this time, are there any questions about our general discussion about the proposed dates? We will need to publish the schedule. Then we can of course modify, but we need to publish, so we'll have to approve this as an action item. But before we get into the action to voting, any general discussion on the meetings? You'll see that the March 15th, 16th meeting is in conjunction, like we normally do, is TD Day at the Capitol and public transportation. May is a standard, just a business meeting, and then Orlando with our training and best practice workshop. Any comments or concerns about those dates or locations?
This is Ms. Munson. I'm just noting that the December date is a conflict, but since we will be able to look at them again, I just thought I'd at least put it on the record that I know in advance it's a conflict due to another meeting on that same day.
Okay, so we'll make a note to circle back around with the commission on that because it is virtual, so
Yeah.
that'll help with logistics and those sorts of things. Okay, so this is an action item to publish the schedule. Is there a motion to approve the schedule as shown today as of now?
This is Commissioner Barrios. I motion to approve.
Thank you. I got a motion from Commissioner Barrios. Can I second that motion?
Commissioner Knight seconds.
Commissioner Knight, thank you. With that, all those in favor of approving the 2023 CT calendar as shown signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? If not, then the motion is approved. The next agenda item are the CTC designations. Just as a reminder, the commission is responsible for designating a community transportation coordinator whose purpose is to arrange transportation disadvantaged services in each county in the state of Florida. The local planning agency is responsible for recommending a CTC for its service area. Today, we have 3 CTC designations presented on our agenda. The first one is Mr. Eastberg from the Appalachia Regional Planning Council, who will present all 3 recommendations for the community transportation coordinators for Leon, Jackson, and Jefferson counties. We'll discuss each recommendation, and we will need to vote separately on each county. So, Mr. Eastberg, are you online today?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. So let's take Leon County first, if you don't mind.
All right. So Leon County, pretty straightforward. Leon County has a partnership with the city of Tallahassee as a governmental agency, Star Metro. Operates and has been operating as a CTC for many years here in Tallahassee, going through, as you all know, obviously, governmental entity, you know, has the option to continue service without the need for competitive procurement. So we approached the city, who remained interested. There was a bit of a negotiation between the city county that ended up having to have a little bit of an extension, but we've got that all sorted. So now we're coming before the board I guess this actually dates back to July 1. The current extension is set to end December 31st, but this would be for the 5-year period serving July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2027. The CTC has remained and is interested, as you can see in your packet, you know, through their approval process there through the city county. And with that being said, we also adopted a resolution through the ARPC recommending that Star Metro continue to serve as CTC in the Leon County service area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eastberg. Any commissioners, any questions about the recommendation for Leon County? If not, I need a motion to approve Star Metro as the CTC designation for Leon County.
This is Commissioner Tellez. I approve.
Commissioner Tellez, motion. Can I get a second?
This is Commissioner Gray. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Any opposed? With that, Star Metro has been approved as the CTC designation for Leon County. Now, I think Jackson County is next, Mr. Eastberg.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Jackson County designation, equally straightforward. This one, we did go to an RFQ process for determining folks that are interested and qualified to serve as CTC in Jackson County. We received one applicant. We got permission from the commission to go into the contract negotiations with a lone applicant. And with that, we moved forward and determined that the single applicant, which is the current CTC, J-Trans, who's been the CTC in Jackson County since the inception of the program, almost 40 years, it still meets the requirements in code and rule. So we would move forward with our recommendation, which was our resolution 22-11. To retain J-Trans, or Jackson County Transportation doing business as J-Trans, for the Jackson County service area.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions about the recommendation? Yeah, I need a motion to approve J-Trans as the CTC designation for Jackson County.
Commissioner Knight makes the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Knight. Can I get a second?
Commissioner Gray will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? If not, then J-Trans is approved as the CTC designation for Jackson County. And then finally, Jefferson County.
Thank you, so Mr. Chair. Jefferson County, same thing we did with Jackson County, issued an RFQ. We received one applicant, the current CTC, that's Big Bend Transit Incorporated. Went through the process of requesting, you know, going through negotiations with a loan applicant, but without approval, went forward and determined that Big Bend Transit, who has also been the CTC in Jefferson County for a very long time, remains consistent with the requirements to serve in such capacity, and therefore we passed resolution 11-12, or excuse me, 22-12. In your packet, requesting that and recommending that Big Bend Transit continue to serve as the CTC in Jefferson County.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions about the recommendation for Jefferson County? If not, then I need a motion to approve Big Bend Transit as the CTC designation for Jefferson County.
This is Commissioner Tellez, and I would like to make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Tellez. I need a second.
This is Commissioner Gray. I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Not, then it is approved that Big Bend Transit is the CTC designation for Jefferson County. Thank you, Mr. Eastberg.
Thank y'all very much.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the 2022 annual performance report. Each year, the commission is required to present a report to the governor and to the legislature. The report includes summary statistics on TD services that were performed during the previous state fiscal year, which is July 1 through June 30th of each year. So in this case, it's July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. The draft 2022 annual performance report was provided last Friday. Our executive director, David Darr, will provide an overview of the content. He'll then ask Casey Perkins, who represents Thomas Howell Ferguson, to present findings from the analysis of data within the report, and then we can have a discussion on the report itself. So with that, Director Darr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, before I get into the report, I do want to thank our team here at the commission. Putting this together has been a lot of work. We also want to thank Thomas Howell Ferguson for their role in helping us with the analysis to process quite a lot of data. Each year, from my role, since I've done this, each year it feels like we've gotten better and better and more efficient at putting this together and getting it to y'all in a timely manner. So we did send that out on Friday as the draft form. So I'm going to go briefly through kind of the high level what is in this report. Commissioners, our standard procedure for recommendation is that we recommend that you approve the substance, the content of the report, but allow us as staff to make any edits, include the additional data tables and whatever we need to do to get it ready and for the deadline of January 1st. So with that, in essence, the report entails two sets of data. One is what's called the annual operating report, or AOR, and that is what the CTCs submit to us on September 15th of each year that provides a system-wide state or a macro point of view for their service area for the year. So these are aggregate numbers. They include various types of trips. They're not just our funding, but the funding from the federal side, if they're receiving that, any other human service agencies that they serve, if they're doing a fixed route, that's captured. So it's quite a wide array of data. And then in addition to that, we also include a newer feature in the last few years, which is our invoice data, which is the direct services that we fund under our trip and equipment grant. This gives you a lot more of a day-to-day, month-to-month view of the services we're directly responsible for purchasing through the CTCs. And so we will get into that in a second as far as some of the big findings from both those data sets. In addition, our report each year we update to y'all, and the audience here being the governor's office and the legislature and our stakeholders. We always include sections that give an overview of our program and our grants and our partners. So that language is recycled each year. We also capture our accomplishments for the year. We discussed a few of them, including our response to COVID-19 when we did the rescue funding. We did that, as you recall, through the end of 2021. So we discussed that piece. We also highlighted our victories through the legislative session back in the winter of 2022. And what we were able to secure some additional funding and for our grant programs this current fiscal year. And we also captured in our Vision Summit some of the findings or the topics that were captured back in May when we met with new commissioners, as well as having some engagement with stakeholders. So this is kind of an overview of the accomplishments section. Excuse me. Then we get in now, as far as the performance goes, I want to put a note that the AOR data is still, we're still putting some final reviews and analysis together for that. So the data that you see, the numbers, the totals, and the content of the draft may be slightly adjusted, but it shouldn't be too dramatically different from what you see. The big picture takeaway from this year's report on our performance, both the AOR and the invoice data indicate that the demand for services is going up, which is I think a positive story that we're slowly but surely seeing a climb out of the pandemic effects that we saw during the previous 2 fiscal years. So we saw an increase in reported ridership of over 20,000 individuals reported increased this past fiscal year. The AOR also reported an increase in trips. Overall trips were increased by 3.5 million than the previous fiscal year from that. And then as far as our direct funding, we were able to provide 1.2 million trips under the Trip and Equipment Grant, which represented an increase of over 150,000 trips that year. Another very positive highlight that Casey's going to discuss probably in further depth here is that of the 57 local service areas that we contract with through the Trip and Equipment Grant, 22 of those service areas reported an increase in their trips nearing closer to pre-COVID numbers. So though we're still not at the level that we were in, say, February 2020, we are seeing that trend moving consistently upward for many of these local service areas. So, and then finally, just to recap, the rescue funding that we did starting in April 2020 through the end of 2021, we distributed 14.6 million in total to offset the negative effects that COVID-19 had. And I'd say that I think that the trip increased, in part, many variables, of course, that contributing to that. But I think that's something that we can definitely put as a success for our organization, that we were able to help mitigate those negative effects to keep services intact, so that we're achieved to the level that we're at today. So that is an overview as far as the content within the report. I will now turn it over to Casey to get in a little bit more of the findings as far as their analysis of the invoice data.
JC, if you're speaking, you're muted. Yeah.
Still muted.
Go ahead for now. Okay. Can you hear me
We
now?
heard you. Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay, good. Oops, let's do that. Okay, so thank you, David. And I'm gonna start really with a chart that's not in your draft report, but should in all likelihood be in the final version of that report before we get it out next January, or by January 1. And what you're looking at here really is just the total number of daily trips in the Trip and Equipment Grant Program over the last 3 state fiscal years. So it starts in July of 2019, goes all the way to June 30th, 2022. And what really jumps out at you right away is leading up to about, mid-March here, when COVID hit, you were very consistently looking at daily trip totals statewide of over 5,000 trips, getting as high as 7,000 trips. The max actually was 7,066 trips on January 15th, 2020. And then as soon as COVID hit, immediately, it goes all the way down to even below 3,000 trips daily. And it rebounds, but through the whole of 2021, it doesn't ever actually even get back up to 5,000 daily trips, which it consistently was above before COVID hit. And as of October of 2021, 22, we started seeing some days again where we're over 5,000 daily trips. But you can see even going all the way through June of the last year, never quite got all the way back to the levels we saw pre-COVID. So kind of as David said in his presentation, a bit of a recovery from the lows of COVID, but not all the way back to where we were pre-COVID. So this is the chart that I think tells that whole story in one shot. And so you can look for that in the final draft. And then the other thing that'll be in the final draft of this year's report are county profiles. And I'm going to use the example of Calhoun because I think it's a good one, but we'll have this for every single county or service area, pardon me. And so what you're going to have for each service area profile is 3 looks over the 3 different years. And this is pretty high level data. You know, this is stuff where you can do kind of an immediate takeaway. So the first thing is as high level as it gets. You know, it's what's the total trips that happened in each month for each state fiscal year, you know, July through June. What you're looking at right now is 2019, 2020, but you also see 2021 and you'll see 21, 22. And then right below that trip, same month for the same fiscal year, you'll see the miles associated with those trips. And then right below that on the same page, you'll see the annual totals. So you'll see the total annual for trips, miles, and we even show the average miles per trip. And we even break that down a little further into all the different modes of transportation for the year. So in Calhoun's case, they had ambulatory, wheelchair, and they're one of the few service areas in the state that also has stretcher trips. So the second look, we'll be looking at days of the week and times during the day in which the trips take place. So in Calhoun's case, had some Sunday trips, weekend trips in general in the trip and equipment grant aren't very common, but in this first year of data, Calhoun did have actually 12 Sunday trips, but like most places in the state, the overwhelming majority of their trips take place Monday through Friday. And for this first year in particular, they actually had a lot of trips where the pickup was at 8 a.m. You know, that was a big chunk of their trips. But you'll see year over year, some of this starts to look a little different. So the next year, they actually had just a few Saturday trips. So in that year, they did provide some trips during all 7 days of the week. And then in terms of the time of day, they had actually a lot more at 9 a.m. and what is that? 12 p.m. during that day. And I forgot to mention, right below these charts here is just sort of a matrix or a table that shows these 2 fields, these 2 variables intersecting. Then in the last year of data, all weekdays for them. But you also notice that the distribution of time in which rides are occurring, it's a lot more distributed than it was the previous 2 years. So the third look is going to really be about geography in these county profiles. And this is really why I chose Calhoun as an example. Calhoun actually does a lot of trips where they cross into another service area outside of the county. In fact, if you're looking at the totals, they actually have 1,908 trips where they cross service areas compared to just 701 where it stays in the same service area. So they really are kind of a unique example in that regard. And over to the right, just some charts to show you by, you know, total trip count, what are the most common origin and destinations. So the largest one, and this is unsurprising, are trips where the origin is Calhoun County and the destination is Calhoun County. But there are a lot of others where it's a different service area for the origin and destination where they're providing trips. And same as the first 2 sort of profiles, 3 years of data for here as well. So that's going to be in the final draft, is county profiles for all 57 service areas or service area profiles, along with some, you know, additional analysis or maybe just some more high level charts on the impact of COVID over the last 3 years. David?
Thank you. Thank you, Casey. So just to wrap up, as you can tell that we are increasing our capacity to give you a bigger story, more in-depth story than what has maybe been in previous reports, at least with the invoice data. That we're not just giving you the last year worth of information, but a 3-year trend. So hoping that this will be built upon each year as we get more and more sophisticated, that we're able to show more trends year over year with our services beyond just what is in one fiscal year. And that is all, Mr. Chair, that I have as far as my briefing. I'm happy to take any questions from here.
Okay. Any questions of David or Casey? Just for everyone's information, the report is due on January 1st of 2023. This is an action item on our part today. The staff recommendation is to improve the content, but we can't allow this. We can allow staff to, the flexibility to make, any final technical tweaks and complete any of the data prior to the final report. So if we don't have any questions, I need a motion to approve the report as shown with the intent of moving toward a final report on January 1st.
Commissioner Knight makes the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Knight. I need a second. I need a second to that motion.
This is Commissioner Barrios. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrios. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Any opposed? Not, then the motion is approved to move forward with the annual 2022 annual performance report to get it ready for January 1st finalization. Okay, so this completes the action items. We'll now move on to just informational items on the agenda. We'll move to the legislative budget requests and the ED's report. David will now give us an overview report on the Commission's legislative budget request for next fiscal year, as well as discuss some other initiatives coming up for 2023. So David, to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is wanted to give you all an overview of what we're requesting now looking into the next fiscal year of July 1st, 2023. Each year, the Commission submits a legislative budget request, that's actually through the Florida Department of Transportation. This is an overview of the one we have requested for this year. We, as some of you may recall, we had a similar discussion during the past legislative session about our budget, getting an increase in our budget authority. That is important to emphasize. That budget authority means that is what is the legislature authorizes to spend versus increased revenues, which is what is coming in through the trust fund into the Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund. So we have, and commissioners, in your meeting packet, you did have a snapshot of what is the revenue projection in the trust fund, that they are each year being projected to go slightly increase. So that is part of the basis of justifying the portion of the request that is here in this what's called the LBR, legislative budget request. So then, in summary, the request total is 10 million in additional budget authority, with 4 million adding to our base budget. So that is what's called recurring revenue, meaning that is year over year, that will be able to be much more sustainable. If that is approved on a recurring basis, that means we would not have to go back to the legislature each year asking for In this case, what we're asking for is 4 million. That would go into the grants and aids program. With the majority of that, we would like to distribute through the trip and equipment grant. So that would be through the formula allocated to all the counties. And it would hopefully encourage our systems to support an increase in their services, as well as, to adjust that we have seen the cost of the services have gone up over the last year due to the inflation and the challenges with gas prices and other variables. So that potentially would also be able to cushion some of those systems that are feeling the heat from the cost of living increases. And that would be supported, that 4 million would be supported through the existing revenues. So we're not asking the legislature to find new revenue. We would just say simply that this would be supported with what is coming in existing through the trust fund, but just increasing that spending authority. And then additionally, we're asking for 6 million in non-recurring, so one year request for the innovative and service development grant. As you recall, this current year we're in actually, we received 4 million to support that program. We are going to the legislature requesting an additional 2 million to support it for next year. Ideally, this would help for those projects. This is a competitive grant program supporting innovative projects that enhance access or increasing mobility options or testing new ways of providing a service to the TD population. So for the projects that we have existing, this would potentially support the high performing projects for the following fiscal year, as well as encourage new projects to be supported if we were to receive that additional 2 million. And that funding would be coming through what is in our trust fund, uncommitted funds, basically, that we have authority. We by getting this request approved would be allowing us to spend. So where we go from here as far as this request is the governor's office has to consider it as part of their recommended budget. And then going through the legislative process from there, it ultimately needs to be within the General Appropriations Act, which is what the legislature is constitutionally required to pass by the end of the 60-day session. So this year, that would be at the end of April, beginning of May, for that legislation to be finalized. And then, of course, it has to ultimately be approved by the governor for it to be effective for July 1st. So one more thing I wanted to mention on the budget is we are also requesting an increase in our administrative budget, and that is intended to do two things. We number one, as you know, we have done a lot in terms of improving our data analytics and being able to be more responsive and improving our services as part of that findings from that data analysis. We are very, very grateful for what Thomas Howell has done for us these last few years, and we want to enhance that by having an on-time, full-time staff member that could assist us with that. Our team, very talented, very skilled when it comes to contract management, but as far as the data analysis side, we could use additional support with somebody who has that expertise, and this would be intended to help be a more sustainable long-term approach. And then in addition to that, we're also requesting an increase in our salaries for our team to help with employee retention and continually rewarding those of our team who have been dedicated to this program. Total transparency, this would be to the team, not including me. This would be for our 10 FTE positions for the commission here in Tallahassee. So that's an overview, Mr. Chair, of the budget. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have as far as that goes.
All right, commissioners, any questions? Okay. Again, it's just an informational item, so let's move to the executive director's report.
All right, now, we have a few more initiatives we wanted to bring to y'all's attention. First, we are finally planning to roll out a new template with our trip and equipment grant invoice process. So each, just for those commissioners or others who are not aware, each month the CTC that is under contract with us will submit an invoice to the commission. Our team will review that invoice, and that will be basically, if approved, would be the reimbursement payment for the trips that were provided for that month, or the bus passes that were purchased for that month. We are going to be rolling out a new template to help us with improving the way that we catch and clean up the data. Right now, where we're at, we do have, our team and the CTCs work together to try to improve, making sure that the data is accurate, any kinds of back and forth. We try to be diligent on that, but this invoice template is hopefully going to help us be a little bit more efficient in that process. Having said that, I do want to emphasize that, it's hoping that it will make our jobs easier, that the template will flag issues like, let's say, the wrong date, or an address appeared wrong, or time didn't show up right. Those are great, but at the end of the day, it comes down to human involvement. So just because we're moving forward with this template, we do want to make sure that we are doing a better job collectively amongst the CTC staff and our staff, and making sure that data is accurate. So as far as the template goes, we are going to start effective in the January invoice cycle, moving forward with this template. We will have a webinar we have tentatively scheduled for January 12th at 1:30. We'll put that information out very shortly for anybody who is interested in being a part of that, and that will be recorded. Thomas Howe will assist us in facilitating that. But we encourage as many people who on the CTC side to be a part of that if they can, because that's your chance to ask questions and make sure that you understand what's going to be rolled out. Kind of in conjunction with the invoice template, I did want to also bring to y'all's attention that through the analysis that Thomas Howe's done for the full year worth of data, we have identified and some challenges with some of the systems putting what's called duplicate trips. These are trips that, basically might be mistakenly an error that was inputted. Maybe that was a trip that occurred, but the information appeared to be an overpayment. We have been in the process of working through that and making sure that we understand if these trips were real trips or if there was a mistake in the system. But we do want to mention this to y'all because going forward, we want to be sure that we have tighter controls and addressing that through a collaborative process through our team and the CTCs. So going forward, we're going to look at a policy in place that addresses those kinds of issues, as well as doing some training, technical assistance with our CTCs to be more on top of that, as well as our team to have a more consistent procedural way of addressing it. I wanted to bring that to your attention because, it's something that we want to be making a good faith effort on and being transparent with you that though this is something that we've spotted as it's an error, it's something that we want to commit to improving in the long run, so we don't catch these things post fiscal year when we're putting this report together. A couple other items real quick just to go through is we're also moving forward with a study to look at ways we can improve our AOR. Commissioner Knight is chairing that work group. This has been a long time coming that we've been wanting to address this. So we're looking forward to the next 6 months being this our priority initiative. We are establishing a work group that consists of Commissioner Knight, as well as our staff, of course, a couple of CTC representatives, a planning representative, and our agency advisors. And our goal here is to identify ways that we can improve both the validation of that data, so making sure that our side as well as the CTC staff side have a better way of ensuring and validating that the data is as accurate as can be made and consistent as it can be made. And then ultimately, the goal is to help also improve the utilization of that data. As you saw in the previous agenda item, you can see how the importance of telling a story, what the data means, what does it say about service trends, behavior. If we're seeing a system that's struggling to serve their TD population, that information would help us to figure out what some strategies or policies as a board that we can implement in the future to help improve those systems, or vice versa. When we see a system that's doing well, what do we learn from that? So those are things that we want to see improved upon through the AOR. So we look forward to embarking on that journey starting in the new year. We'll probably have a workshop sometime in the winter, springtime to engage the stakeholders in a dialogue on how we can improve that. And then finally, the Innovative Service Development Grant, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a request out there to have that funding continue and even increase for the next year. Obviously, we have to go through the legislative process, so that's all contingent on that funding being approved by the legislature and the governor's office. But at the same time, we also have to begin to facilitate a process so that if that funding is approved, that we do have projects in the line ready to go. So we have several projects that have been approved for the current fiscal year. I think we have 8. And so what we'd like to do is start that application process earlier this year. So we're looking at hopefully February timeframe if we can to release that application. Again, everything's contingent on where the legislature goes. But with that, we would also like to add some features in terms of reviewing the existing projects that are on the table. Assuming those projects want to continue, apply for next year, we do want to have a little more engagement and dialogue with those projects. So what we'd like to propose to y'all as the commission is that we have at our March commission meeting some of those projects present here in Tallahassee, the progress they've learned, lessons they've learned with those, with doing those service projects. And then, because we have 8, that might be too much to do in one meeting. So what we were thinking is that we'd have half of those projects present for the March commission meeting, and then have a virtual meeting in the following month for the other half. So, and this would be a chance for you commissioners and advisors to ask questions and engage in a dialogue just beyond just what you see with the application proposals themselves. So that's just some overview of our different projects, and I threw a lot at you, so I'll take any questions you may have or comments.
Yeah, commissioners or advisors, any questions or comments on David's report? We did have an online question, David, if you want to take that one.
Sure.
Ashley, you had a question about the report? Ashley, you have to unmute. Okay, maybe we'll come back.
Hi,
Oh, there
I'm
you go.
Ashley, for St. Johns County COA. I was wondering if they were going to send us all the templates and everything for the billing for the CTD.
Yes, good question. So you're talking about the invoice template. We will actually post that, I think, on our website. We'll send that out to folks to be able to start reviewing it. And then we'll have the webinar for more in-depth discussion of it to give you a tutorial of it. And we will record that if you can't make that meeting. But feel free to reach out to our team as well once you've got a chance to review it if you have questions.
I just know we've been struggling with our times in the way that it shows up in Trapeze because it's like what we put in, and sometimes if the drivers are running late, it looks like we dropped them off after their scheduled time, which technically we did. But I'm working with Trapeze to try to figure out how to get the exact times.
Certainly. Well, yes, thank you for your comment. We will talk more about that when we get to the webinar next month.
Okay, with that, we're going to move to commissioner and advisors report. So at this time, do any of the commissioners have additional reports or information they would like to share today? Not, what about advisors? Any of the advisors in the meeting today would like to share any updates? Okay. So that will move into the second public comments segment and any closing remarks. We'll now hold the second public comments segment of the agenda meeting on the meeting today. Speakers are welcome to discuss any topic. Again, we're limited to 5 minutes. Please identify your name, any organizational affiliation, and your county residence. With that, we'll do the same process of going to forms that were filled out in advance, then the webinar, then calls. So do we have any forms that were filled out during the time of the meeting? David, any public comment forms filled out?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
During the meeting?
No,
Okay.
no
Okay.
other additional comments.
Okay. Anyone on the webinar like to make a comment at this time? If not on the phone, remember you gotta hit *6 to unmute. So if not, then this concludes our business meeting. We want to thank everyone who invested the time today. The commission will hold its next meeting, like we talked about previously, in Tallahassee on March 15th, which will be followed by our annual Legislative Awareness Day at the Capitol on March 16th. We'll also send out announcements, so on and so forth. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
This is Commissioner Barrios. I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrios. We have a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Commissioner Knight seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Knight. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned. I wanted to let everyone know that to be safe, have a great holiday, Christmas and New Year, and we look forward to a new year.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
You too.
All right. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.